Hi muckers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having the best day ever. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today and being a part of this conversation and choosing to spend even a little portion of your day. I really appreciate it. Okay, today we are going to be talking about H3, talking about the current lawsuit that is ongoing and has actually just started as this week. It is fresh lawsuit between Dennis, Def Noodles, and Keemstar, Daniel Keem. Oh, I gave him his full title. That seemed actually very weird. I don't know why that just so easily came off the tongue. I don't think I've ever called him Daniel Keem before. How official of me, government official. Okay, so there's a lawsuit going on between these two. I made a video going through the lawsuit documents. So this video is not going to be in-depth describing the lawsuit. All I will tell you is that Def Noodles is suing Keemstar for defamation in regards to a tweet that Keemstar made about Dennis last year that was making fun of Dennis's coverage of the James Charles underage boy scandal that was going on. So Dennis was compiling a big thread on Twitter. This was before he was banned on Twitter. That was basically every single day showing many new victims of James Charles, and the thread was filled with inaccurate information, it was filled with fabrications, and now whether this was Dennis's fault or not is always up for speculation. However, the reason that it was made fun of so much by people like Keem and so many people, this was whenever Dennis really started to get hate videos made about him, was whenever Dennis was covering this stuff and it was getting him a lot of engagement, and there were a lot of people speaking up about their experiences with James Charles that were authenticated, they were real, the screenshots were true, where James was coming into their DMs, he was being really creepy, really predatory, and James even admitted that I think 2 of them were real. Now, the thing was, Dennis was getting so much attention for this thread and being the one that was breaking the news of all of these, underage boys coming forward. He was being talked about on Frenemies, he was being talked about on H3, all the Reddit pages were talking about him, drama videos were talking about him. He really fueled this movement about James Charles. Now, a lot of the people that he was talking about in these threads were actively lying about James Charles, even messaging them from faking DMs or just straight up lying. And a lot of these people, who again are all underage, well, most of them were posting that they were doing this because they wanted attention, or that they saw that there was actual people coming forward, so they wanted to get in on it and get, clicks, and so all this disgusting stuff, right? So there was a big movement that was calling out Dennis for not being careful in his response to addressing SA claims about people, and he was getting trolled and called out where people were doing the same to him, where they were like, how would you like if someone was doing this to you? Where, yeah, there was, one is enough if someone speaks up against James Charles, and there were a couple that were speaking up against James and they were true, but people were saying that, Dennis, when you're doing a thread where you're doing 3 new victims a day, and there's, having posts on their social media that actively say that, they're lying or they're doing this for attention, and you're not looking into it, then how are you a news source, and you're, defaming James? And so there was this big conversation that was going on. So Dennis is suing Keemstar for a tweet that Keemstar made that was basically saying the following in exactly the same format that Dennis was covering the James stuff. So Dennis was tweeting new victim of James Charles comes forward, the source says this, they wish to stay anonymous, here's the picture, we're waiting for more info. So Keemstar then made a tweet about Dennis that said, Dennis accused of this by victims, a source says this, we're waiting for them to come forward. And he was trolling Dennis for not being careful in his coverage of SA, and a lot of people were at that time, and I feel like I'm not in support of either of them in this case, because again, I think that they're equally as obsessed with each other, but I do think it's important where all of this has stemmed from, if we do forget it. And again, I am the least pro Keemstar person of all time. I'm just saying that to not point out that he was directly making fun of Dennis for doing the exact same thing, I think it would be hard to ignore that point. So anyway, Dennis is suing him for that, and he's suing him for defamation because Keemstar has then went on the record that he tweeted this when knowing that this wasn't true, and he was basically just making fun of Dennis. So the lawsuit is basically about Dennis did this knowingly to try affect Keemstar did this knowingly trying to affect Dennis's brand, and then the argument about Dennis doing this to James, Dennis can say, well, I didn't know that these people weren't real or stuff, even though the information was there. There's a lot of, twists and turns that this can take. So the lawsuit is is literally about that. So the lawsuit is about Dennis is said his brand and he lost so much money was all affected because of this tweet that Keemstar made accusing him of SA. One of the worst tweets I've ever seen, and Keemstar is, sorry, so many fucking names here even though there's only 2, it's so confusing. Keemstar's tweet was disgusting, it was horrifying, it was not funny, it was just one of those tweets where I saw it and I was like, really, like, you're, like, the lowest for Keemstar is low, and he's even dripping below that. So that is what the lawsuit is about, and h3 have now talked about it. Now, a lot of people are accusing Dennis of doing this lawsuit to kind of help h3, because obviously h3 have a long history with Keemstar, Keemstar has a long history with h3, there's been lawsuits there. So a lot of people, you know, have the argument that they believe that Dennis is very, very, very pro-Ethan, which I agree with, because whenever, again, we talked about the gay drama that happened with Ethan, Dennis was the only person I can recall who was not only rooting for Ethan during that, but was actively trying to distract from people accusing Ethan of being homophobic with being like, look, Keemstar's more homophobic, and just brought up all this stuff randomly. So he was like a straight man trying to weaponize homophobia that when someone else was being called out for homophobia. So a lot of people are accusing Dennis, and I do think it's important to also add this, of basically doing this lawsuit to kind of get more so on h3's side, which is an interesting point, and I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, but I'm interested to see what h3 have to say about this lawsuit, and let's hear what they have to say. But again, I have very, like, shady goggles on towards Dennis ever since he made that, you know, series of videos about the Ethan drama, with him addressing it was literally just be like, no, Keemstar's worse than Ethan, and it's like, okay, well, you can call Ethan out without having to make it about Keemstar. So again, I'm really not rooting for anyone in this lawsuit. I really don't care. I think they're as equally as awful as each other whenever it comes to each other. So that's just my personal take on it. I know a lot of people are rooting for Keemstar. I know a lot of people are rooting for Dennis. Honestly, in this, I really don't care who wins. And we're gonna hear what h3 have to say about it now. Okay, so here we go. So this is on their podcast, Keemstar sued for defamation, Elon Musk allegations, and Dogecoin founder calls in After Dark 73. So I'm watching this for fair use commentary purposes. Don't need to say that because h3 is so great when it comes to fair use, but still providing it. Okay, here we go.
I mean, Billy D.
Yeah, that.
I mean, we could talk about the Def Noodles thing. You think maybe that'll take too long? There's not a lot of information out there.
Right.
About
Talk about it.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that and then we.
So Def Noodles announced that he is suing Keemstar. Now this is really took me by surprise, I have to say.
Murderer.
And I can't say that Keemstar doesn't deserve it, but let's analyze this from a, you know, completely fair. I'm going to be impartial as possible. Obviously, I like Def and hate Keemstar, as you guys know.
Very impartial.
Keemstar defamed me and many other people. So,
Yep.
But let's look at this impartially.
Now, one thing I do hope is that they don't just ride for Dennis in this because they hate Keemstar and like Dennis. Because I feel like h3 could have a really powerful voice in this, because they have actively been sued many times for defamation, and they openly speak about how people with power abuse the defamation case. And so I believe that is what's happening with Dennis here. Sorry, that is just my personal opinion, because I feel like Dennis can also be accused of I'm sorry, the ghost of Dennis is trying to just stop me speaking with the phlegm. Fuck you, Dennis. I'm kidding, by the way. Dennis did not want me to say that. Kidding, all love to Dennis. But anyway, yeah, I just feel like the same argument can be made against Dennis by so many YouTubers, specifically James, and I hate James. So anyway, I hope that they come at this from a fair point of view, because again, they have spoken up many times about how people have tried to just take them down for defamation. So if they twist their morals here to kind of just be in support of Dennis, I will be disappointed. But I'm rooting that they won't. I'm rooting that they'll come at this from a fair point of view, where they will literally come at it where I know a lot of people are coming at it, which is, yeah, Keemstar has done horrible things to Dennis. Dennis has also perpetrated lots of horrible things about Keemstar, even recently doing this full homophobia trail on him to distract from the situation that was going on with Ethan. I think it's literally just tit for tat here. Unfortunately, with a bunch of weaponizing horrible allegations and horrible scandals and just things about each other. It's just my personal take on it. So I hope that they come at it from a point of view of, like, this case is just going to waste them both a lot of money, and anything that Keemstar, you know, says about Dennis, you know, Dennis has said similar things about other people, more specifically the James Charles thread of victims that were coming forward whenever Dennis was covering false victims. Now again, that doesn't take away that there were real ones there, but I just think that there's so much that Dennis can say that Keemstar can be like, I did it because you did this. And again, I don't like Keemstar. So, it'll be interesting to see how they respond to this. I'm quite nervous.
Sure. First of all, this is where he announced it, right?
Half that slux. Anyway, folks, as you read in the title of the video, I am suing Keemstar. Now, for those of you who started following me recently and are not aware, nearly 1 year ago, Keemstar knowingly published false and defamatory allegations against me. He claimed I groomed numerous underage girls. Keemstar has since confessed twice to fabricating these allegations to punish me. He has never officially retracted these allegations, nor has he ever corrected them. These allegations have caused me great harm socially and professionally. I am now suing him to clear my name of these false allegations and to hold him accountable for knowingly making false accusations. And now a palate cleanser.
Now, can I say I can be a witness in a way?
Go ahead.
Some sort of a witness, because I remember when Keemstar posted that, and then I think maybe one of you guys shared it or something, and when I saw that tweet or headline, whatever it was, I was like, oh no, not Def. Like,
I had the same reaction.
right? Because we were all loving him, and I was like, you know, it's like when the Me Too happens, and it's like, oh no, not my favorite actor, or I had that feeling like not Def, and then I was like, oh, obviously it's Keemstar, so gotta look into it. But it did that moment to me, and then it's like at the back of your head, you know, it's there.
Now, the only way that Dennis would win this lawsuit if he proves how the damage was done to his career. So Dennis said he lost so much money from this. I think it was like $75,000. Now, in reading through the documents, a lot of people were like, you know, he might have just lost sponsors, because I and a lot of people were saying that whenever Dennis is saying that he was affected by Keemstar, monetary-wise and numbers-wise, was actually when Dennis's channel was performing its best. So when Dennis is saying that Keemstar made him lose $75,000, Dennis was actually making the most amount of money he's ever made and gaining the most amount of subscribers. So then the people who are supporting Dennis are saying, well, maybe he lost sponsorships. My response to that is, it's not in the lawsuit. So it's interesting to me that he is, you know, saying that, and again, I'm not saying that I don't believe it, but all I'm saying is, you would normally include in the lawsuit, like, where you lost the expenses, because it's not on your YouTube channel, like, just with ads and stuff, because you were performing your best. So if it is with sponsorships, I don't know why it wasn't included in the lawsuit whenever it was, like, 9 pages and it wasn't, like, mentioned, other than he just, like, lost money. Maybe I'm not looking, you know, too far into it or whatever like that. But that's where I was looking at it, and if that was to be provided, then I would be like, oh, 100% on Dennis's side, because I'd be like, here is proof that Keemstar saying this made him lose sponsorships, made him lose $75,000. But actually, the truth of what I'm seeing is that when Keemstar said this, Dennis's channel was at an all-time boom, and he was making the most amount of money, the most amount of views, gaining the most amount of subscribers. So unless that's provided in the court documents, I just kind of have the attitude of, well, he's not showing how he lost anything, and he was actually gaining the most. So, what's the argument? Like, where's the $75,000 coming from? You know what I mean? So that's literally where I'm just like, because I want to be on Team Def with this, but it's like, provide. Like, show us, and don't just, like, words. So that's where I'm at with it. But if he was to provide that in the lawsuits, I don't know why it hasn't been included thus far, I'm sure it will be in the future, then that's an actual valid, like, great argument. But whenever you're saying that he made you lose $75,000 but then you don't show it, again, I might not just be seeing it, but I've been watching so many people's live streams on this, and they're going through all the court documents, and it hasn't been shown once where he was losing all of this because he was actually gaining so much during that period. It's just kind of like, show us. And that's, you know, it's not invasive, it's like, that's actually what happens in a lawsuit. So, anyway.
So I had the same exact reaction when I saw that. I was like, holy shit, you know, I believed it when I saw it. 'Cause I don't know, Keemstar, the thing about Keemstar is he professes to be a legitimate news source. Obviously, that's debatable for people that know him well. I don't think the people that consume his content necessarily know what a liar he is. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But also, he's reported on several very serious allegations of essay and stuff. So, like, if you take his track record, as a news person who has broke several serious stories of this nature, I think you have a really good argument that he has, breached his responsibilities here. And now defamation, well, let me read it. So this
Well, I understand the point they're making. Dennis was also calling himself a news source whenever he was covering the James stuff. And there was so much that he was covering that was proven to be false. And it was like actively online that the stuff was not true from the people's comment sections or their Twitter or whatever. And he was still covering it because obviously the more he posted about victims of James Charles or alleged victims, because a lot of them were just lying. And again, that doesn't take away from the real ones. He was a news source covering that as well. So that's why I just feel like it's so tit for tat here, unfortunately. And I just feel like Dennis doing this lawsuit is going to open a can of worms, and it's going to get messy. So, good luck, y'all. Woo.
He's referring to. Deaf Noodles has allegedly groomed girls ages 12 to 15. Big YouTuber source said, victims are scared of him and wish to stay anonymous, but may come forward soon. #drama alert. And then he responded to it saying, Deaf Noodles has declined to give us a comment on these allegations made against him. Now, what's interesting is this tweet's still up. And he never retracted it. Only a year later, he said this. This is the tweet. This is in the filing, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually also in the filing. He says,
Sorry, this just popped into my head, but there was a big conversation that was happening that people were saying that even recently, Dennis was, saying that Keemstar and Rich Lux were like the alt-right movement or some bullshit like that. And everyone's saying that, Rich could sue Dennis for that. So it's just like, I do just personally feel, and a lot of people do as well, that Dennis doing this lawsuit about defamation to someone else is just going to open the insane list of things that Dennis has said that were not true. Because at a time, Dennis was not just a drama channel. He was a Twitter news source. So, don't know.
don't you remember he kept posting nonstop fake P-word stories on YouTube? So I posted this tweet to mock him. In May 2021, everyone knows this is a joke, that I'm mocking him. But now he's taking it completely out of context, acting like...
Okay, hold on. I have a hair in my eye. I'm trying to get this out. Sorry, if you have cats, you're aware. There we go. Oh my god, it was the longest. It was I don't know why I'm being like beauty guru. I don't know if you can see this, but it was like the longest white hair. So, thank you, Gomez. Sorry, I could see it in the corner of my eye that entire video. Sorry.
Serious allegation. So what's interesting about this statement is, one, I have to explain defamation because a lot of people don't understand it. Defamation isn't just lying about someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you lie about someone maliciously with the intent to harm their reputation while knowing that it's not true. Mm-hmm. That's a super high bar to reach. And what this tweet does...
Yeah, but it's also about, like, losing from it. So losing money, losing sponsorships, losing audience, losing, parts of your career. And the lawsuit doesn't include that. So, what did he lose? That's literally just where I'm at right now. I'm genuinely curious because I want to know more about this because obviously it's a shocking headline, but there's just so much that's missing from it. He's suing him for $75,000 because that's what he lost from Keemstar, but his views were doing better. He was getting so much money on YouTube. Like, if he lost sponsorships, why isn't that in the lawsuit? With, like, examples and stuff, because isn't that normally what would happen? I feel like from the past, that's always what would be shown. And so Keemstar's tweet, he was posting non-stop fake P-word stories on YouTubers, so I posted this tweet to mock him. Everyone knows it's a joke and that I'm mocking him. And he's now taking it out of context and acting like it's a serious allegation. So again, I think Keemstar is disgusting for making that tweet, and I don't think it's funny in the slightest. But him saying that, don't you remember Dennis posting fake P-word stories on YouTubers? Again, Keemstar can make that argument in court against Dennis, and then other YouTubers may be called to testify, which would be like James Charles. And as well, if 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the stories that Dennis covered about James were confirmed to be true, there's also like 20 something others that will then have to be looked. I just think that it's gonna, I don't know. I honestly personally just feel like this is gonna backfire on Dennis. I don't know, I could be completely interpreting this wrong, I could be completely wrong in this, and I agree with that. That's literally just where my opinion's at with this today, and it's kind of stayed consistent since I first heard this. So I don't know.
Which was posted a year later, actually proves malicious intent, and he knew it wasn't true. So it's kind of a weird tweet, because on one hand he's saying, you know, that it was a joke, and everybody knew that it wasn't serious. I actually don't believe that. I think the only reason people knew it wasn't serious is because Def Noodles kept talking about it and being like, this is bullshit, he made it up and stuff like that. But Keemstar never clarified or retracted it. So, like,
the original, here, you have...
Yeah, the original's still up. I mean, yeah. And Keemstar's done that to me. He made a video saying I stole money from a video game to embezzled money, and I did a whole video proving that it wasn't true, and it's still up. So, like, technically, I could technically sue him for defamation the same way, right?
By the way, if he's saying that everybody knew it was a joke, it's like, let's look at the comments. Do people know it's a joke?
Yeah, he has some comments in the filing to show that people thought it was real.
Yep.
Exactly.
Did you guys, anyone read the full filing?
I also think it's important to note for context that the people that he's including in the lawsuit as believing it are all like diehard Keemstar fans who were adding to mocking Dennis. And I feel like that anyone who's chronically online like me can see that, because we were online seeing it. It doesn't excuse anything at all. Again, I think Keemstar's tweet was horrible. I just feel like there's so much weird context that is missing from it. I don't know.
I haven't read. I mean, I just saw excerpts and screenshots and stuff.
I read through it. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but
here it is.
It's not an expert opinion, but yeah, I mean, like you said, because you've been dealing with the Ryan Kavanaugh bullshit lately, defamation has been...
I've been sued twice for defamation.
Right.
Once by Matt Haas, once by Ryan Kavanaugh.
Right, and so...
Wait, Matt Haas did defamation?
Yeah. That got thrown out.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, we've explored that quite a bit, and like you said, it is at least in the United States, the laws are different.
No, it's state by state. California has a really strong anti-SLAPP thing for public figures, and New York actually has a new anti-SLAPP law that is kind of unexplored. So it's hard to say which direction this is going. But here's the filing. Here's the tweet we just read. And basically, it's a really simple filing. It's quite short, only 9 pages.
Yeah, it's
Pretty sure
incredibly
you have like 30 pages
simple.
on these things.
It's incredibly simple because there's nothing there in it. There's nothing in it. It's so lackluster. Normally all these lawsuits have like minimum 20 pages. This one has 9, and that's like everything included.
It's 14 pages!
Just 9, actually. So so right off the bat, you know, you have to say, like, when you're suing someone for defamation, you just have to assume you're automatically on the back foot. So, like, just off the bat, because of the nature of defamation lawsuits, I'll say that Keemstar is likely to win. That being said,
I honestly, as much as I like them, I really do just feel like they're having a completely different opinion about a defamation case here with jokes and mocking people. Again, I don't think the joke's funny, but that's unfortunately what it was. I just feel like they're changing their opinion here and it's interesting to see that because they have been involved in so many defamation cases. But I mean, I get it. I get why they're doing it. You know, they're close with Dennis and they don't like Keemstar. I get it, but I don't know.
it's not a slam dunk for him. I think this is a really interesting case here. And I think Keemstar's likely defense is going to be basically, they're going to say that the Tucker Carlson defense.
Yeah. Nobody rational would take me serious.
Nobody rational would take me serious. It's just entertainment.
Wouldn't you have to prove that, like, he makes jokes like this all the time or something, you know? Like, you'd have to show that there's a reason to think that this was a joke.
I'll tell you exactly how it's going to play out. So if they file this, now Keemstar's lawyers have to respond. They're going to respond by saying, Keemstar's an entertainer. He's not a news person. Nobody would take these charges seriously. Now, if I was Def's lawyer, what I would do in response to that...
Find all the times that he says that he's reporting news.
Find all the times he said, I just report the news. Find all the times he's talked about serious times he's reported on essay allegations. And show meticulously that he is serious news person. And not only that, he has a propensity to report on essay in a serious manner. And then, you know, Keemstar...
And then add to all that the old guy that was fakely accused of...
That's just
wrongly.
He's done it before.
Yeah.
A fantastic example. And that had dire consequences. And then I think Keemstar's lawyers are just going to have to try to dispel one by one each example that Def Noodle's lawyers...
Or they'll bring up his James Charles thread. That's going to be their main argument. I don't know why H3 aren't addressing the James Charles elephant in the room here with Dennis, because that's what all of this is about.
Bring up, but that's it. So that he files his initial one, Keemstar's lawyers respond, and then he responds to that, and then Keemstar responds to that. And basically, what's going to happen is Keemstar's lawyers are going to file the anti-slap, which basically means that because Def Noodles is a public figure, it's really hard to defame public figures. And
so basically, they're all gonna waste a bunch of money. Is that what we're taking from this? Yes. Okay, muckers, I want to know your opinion on this. I am surprised by their take on this, I'll be honest, but I mean, I'm kind of not as well, because makes sense. I love you. Thank you for watching this video. Please let me know your opinion down below. And thank you for watching this. And I will see you in my next one. And bye. Mwah! By the way, please ignore the sunburn. Please ignore. I shouldn't have worn it low. There. Perfect.